All right, we are live again here at the Stronger Together podcast. I am your current interim host, Kristin Merrill. So if y'all were looking for a little Dr. Matthew X. Joseph live and in the flesh, you're going to have to wait. He's indisposed right now, interviewing elsewhere. So I am excited here for my second go at podcast host. I am here with Joe and Kristin Merrill. I'm very excited to have the two of you here. Welcome to the really kind of intimidating super live podcast.
I
was expecting headphones, and I was worried about my hair. I'm like, I hope I can put them around the back of my head. I had like this whole plan.
I was also very worried about my hair.
This is legit live.
Yeah, he definitely did not tell me about this whole live.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of
he asked me to go to interim host. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I was like, sure, yeah, I can figure that out. And then he left this little caveat out until about 8:30 this morning.
By the way, people will be walking by.
It's like all these wonderful people.
I'm sitting outside of the vendor home. He's like, what are you doing? Because you wouldn't have done it. Damn right I wouldn't have done it. Happy birthday!
Yes, there you go. Today's a birthday.
Hey.
Everybody in the expo hall is saying happy birthday.
Yeah, we should, but I'm like, so, anyway, enough about that. Welcome. So why don't the two of you tell us a little bit about yourself, your platform, the work that you do, and what brings you here to Eastie Live?
All right. Well, we're obviously right. Like here, go
No
live.
hesitation.
No hesitation.
Whatever it is.
Okay,
Kristin, it's all you. Come on,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
All right. Well, we are obviously married. We are educators. We have been coming. This was our very first conference that we've ever attended, and so it has this year.
Back
A long time ago. I can't age myself too much.
Hey, I already said it was my birthday.
We came to Philly last time. It was in Philly, so I mean,
We came because we thought it was your birthday. So.
Classroom teachers, primary, so first and fourth grade, just have a love of interactive learning and engaging students, and so it kind of has led us to different things.
First and fourth grade.
First grade.
First grade and fourth grade.
So my daughter just finished first grade, and my son just finished fourth grade.
Hey.
I am so sorry.
So when COVID came, our youngest was in my class and our oldest was in her class. So we were legit living through COVID. So we
With
could
our
see,
kids in our class.
Yeah, with our kids in our class. So we could see exactly what they were capable of doing, what they weren't capable of doing. It was wow.
Great.
Yeah, did you hear that? It was wow. It was great.
All right, so you teach first and fourth grade, and what is it that you teach, and why did you become teachers?
Yeah, I mean, we teach everything, so all the subjects.
Speak for yourself.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're a slacker. You only do like half. You only do relations.
I do English language arts. I do the most important, the history and the English language arts.
Okay, but if you add that up, then that's not correct because math is the best. So
This is
whatever.
I think we lost this podcast. We've lost control of the podcast.
Anyway, so no, we just became teachers. We both come from a family of teachers, actually. And, teaching was not in my original career path. I was a designer, and led me to education. And so inspired by some really powerful women in my life. My wife, obviously one of them, she taught before me. We actually started off on the same team, believe it or not, which was horrible for dinner conversations because I had no idea what I was doing. And she's like, "You're doing this all wrong."
I did not know, but great. Yes, we were kind of opposite. I knew I wanted to be a teacher from the very beginning. He didn't quite know so, and kind of led us down this path of just teaching kids and loving learning and learning from our learning. And, it's been great.
That's awesome. And you published a book, correct?
Yeah.
You authored a book, or
We did.
because that's when you and I first met, like a year ago, right? And I think
Yeah. At the author signing.
and the author signing, right? Yeah. So tell the folks a little bit about that.
So we have 2 books out, one called The Interactive Class and one Flip, which should be Flip, but it's Flipgrid, The Interactive Class. And both of them are just focused on finding innovating and engaging ways to utilize technology with students and finding ways to adapt your activities that you normally use in the classroom to meet today's learners.
Excellent.
So I was a first grade teacher and a third grade teacher before becoming a technology specialist. And I remember it was very challenging because the first graders, it was rough. They were still in that early learning stage. By third grade, I was able to do a little bit more and get more of a learning experience. First grade was more of a growing up experience. Third grade was more of a learning experience. But I do remember, even though I never taught fourth grade, when my third graders left me at the end of June with the big hugs and "Goodbye, Mr. A, we'll see you again next year." And then they came in fourth grade after something changed during the summer. And it turned into a little bit of a different experience because they were a little bit rougher in fourth grade. It was very challenging. And I know as an educator, you're pushing your students and you're trying to get them out of their comfort zone and help move them forward. And inevitably, there's going to be some failures and some bumps in the road. But I heard an expression, it stuck in my head, and I want to know your opinions on it. What do you think about the expression failing forward?
A whole lot of other factors that are being thrown into the mix. And so, basic everyday computing techniques like copying and pasting, recording videos, all that stuff is bound for failure. But the kids are learning that as they go along. And if you think about it, there's not a whole lot of coaching or teaching that goes into that. We're really like, here's how the program works. You figure it out from here. And so, of course, there's going to be failures, and we encourage that because it's just going to help them in the learning process. And more importantly, and especially for the little kids, it gets them better at troubleshooting themselves rather than saying to the teacher, like, "Hey, I can't figure this out." I'm like, "You're not going to break anything. Just do it. Push all the buttons."
Yeah, I would say that ultimately there's really no failure, right?
Right. Yeah.
I had my kids this last week, and something came, I ordered something from Amazon, and so it came, it was for me, and I took out whatever it was, and my daughter started playing this box, as we all know happens, right? My first grader, soon to be second grader. And she spent 3 days with glue, crayons, and scissors, and she cut this box up and made a prototype of her dream bed.
That's
And
amazing.
it was amazing because from my standpoint as an educator, I'm like, this is like engineering 101, right? And she was failing with certain cardboards because it was too thin, and so she couldn't get it to stand up on edge, perpendicular, and so we were talking about why one cardboard would do that, the other cardboard would, and it was amazing to see that, that constant, we say failing, right? But she never would have come to the outcome and get the project done if she hadn't had those hiccups along the way. So it's all about, I'm such a proponent, it's not really a failure, it's a lesson learned, right?
And it builds that creativity aspect, right? We're big on that. We want to make sure that the kids have that creative outlet, and in doing things like that, that just encourages them to use that critical thinking. And so having that there is super important for us.
So here's a question, kind of just rolled right now. So I was thinking about that, watching my daughter go through this process, so trial and error to make a prototype, right? How do you as classroom teachers assess something like that, right? Because
Oh,
she like, I don't want to broad bias. I would have given her an A plus. So like, she like it's so what's the rubric look like? How do you use assessment?
Right. We actually have a whole session on this, and it's Kristen's baby, so we'll let her
no,
answer this.
see, look,
Yes.
I hands on my
Yes.
over for like the hardest things. Okay.
That's it. We throw you the balls and give them all that are.
Is it included on this?
It is, but we did it yesterday. So
Oh, you did it
we give
yesterday.
you the
Okay, so
snapshot
give
now,
us
but-
like the
But, like,
elevator.
okay, so assessment in many ways can be like the death to creativity because people think that when you're assessing something, like there's a criteria that kids have to follow, and often that criteria bleeds from the standards or whatever the concept is you're teaching into like how they do it. And so a long time ago, if you look up Cult of Pedagogy, it's got a two-sided rubric. And so when I would grade something like that, I would kind of put in the middle column the standards or the criteria that I'm looking for, right? And I discuss that with my kids. Sometimes I design it with my kids. So I'll put in here's like, the reading standard or the writing standard that I'm looking for. What else do you think would make this project look good? Especially when you're designing like on a computer, and then they'll put in things so we design that. And then you leave the other two sides. So there's 3 columns empty. And as the kids are working, they're constantly going back to that middle column of expectations. But what that looks like sometimes is up for interpretation. And then when you grade each side, one side is like your positives, all the things that did really well, or maybe even exceeded your expectations. And then the other side is areas that they could have grown in, or maybe things that weren't done completely well. Or up to that standard. And so it's like completely revisable. Like you just kind of write in it, you jot in it. And I sometimes do it with my kids as they're working on the project. Time to like go back and revise and fix some of the things that might be lacking.
And it sounds like there's a huge reflective piece to it,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So like what are the kids able to communicate to you about their sort of learning process as they go, right?
Yeah, because the ultimate gain of an assessment is to understand what the kids have taken away and learned, and then to take that and reflect on it and use that in the next teaching that you're doing, right? So if you're not taking away from what the kids are doing and it's not altering or influencing how you're teaching, then the assessment really isn't serving its purpose.
Yeah, so like one of the moments with my daughter that I found really interesting was, she's trying to use glue. And the glue was like getting all over the place.
Yeah.
She's got first graders like so we're using like a wet paper towel, like wipe off the excess glue. It still wasn't satisfying to her, but in my head I know when it dries you're not going to see it. She doesn't know that. So I'm like, just let it, what is it? And then the next day she was like, Mommy, look, like it's all clear. You can't see it at all. So it's like, that's part of her learning, right? That she should apply next time. Like, you don't have to stress about this because it's not going to negatively impact your project. All right, Bob, you get the next question. Go ahead.
All right, so this one should be easy since you guys live together. You work not together, but in the same field and the same concept. The term stronger together. What does that mean to you?
It's a really easy answer for us because since there's 2 of us, anytime I have what I think is going to be like the next greatest idea, I will explain it to her, and she'll either say, "That's really great," or most of the time, it'll be like, "You need to rethink that because that's not as good of an idea as you're describing." So that's why I was so able to answer that so easily.
We also have that benefit of having the sounding board, right? And so sometimes an idea just needs to be revised or changed, or you look at it from different perspectives. So he always looks at things from like the pure just engagement and creativity, and I look at it more from like, how's the average person going to connect with that or do that? How can you make that accessible for this grade or that subject? And so, having someone that you can bounce ideas off of, I think is so important. Like this past year, I didn't have anyone necessarily in my grade and in my subject area to bounce ideas off of, but it didn't keep me. I could go next door to the person who taught math and be like, hey, I can run this idea by you. And they're perfectly capable of doing that as well. But having someone help you kind of refine your thinking, it only makes it better, right? And you don't always look at everything from every perspective. We get kind of set in our ways. And so I would say having someone that you can sound off of, that you can come to when you're stuck and you're like, I really need to make this better, or this didn't work, how would you do it, is probably like a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have someone like that, right? No matter where you are, whether you're in a school situation where you have a friend in the building or whether you have a spouse, right? You got to have somebody to lean on to really bounce those ideas off of because just like our students, we have to get better too, right? And the only way that we get better is we come to places like this. We get to see all of our friends and learn from all of the amazing sessions that they're giving. And so it's that hunger, right? It's always looking for something more. And we're just very lucky to have each other.
Yeah, I think that's really admirable, and kudos to the two of you. Because in order to get stronger and better, you've got to be open to that constructive criticism, and you've got to be willing to listen and be reflective. So you can get all the information from somebody else or all the feedback from somebody else, but it's not going to change you as an educator if you're not willing to make that change. So I think that speaks really volumes of who the two of you are as educators and who the two of you are as people. As someone that used to co-teach with an ex-spouse, and they're an ex-spouse for a reason.
So, yeah, so that you know,
Because it was a lot to balance, and it just, I sat there, and I think it's awesome that you're there for each other, and then in the end, stronger for your students. So,
yeah,
Kudos.
feedback is definitely going back and forth from each other. So.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also important to understand that there can come to an impasse where like he's very passionate about something, and I can be like, okay, I'll see how it works. It doesn't always have to be exactly in the way that I would want something. I can give my advice or I can help. But I think as educators, that's really important too. Like sometimes we feel so passionately about something, and we want to drive everyone to that exact way, and it may not be what's right for that teacher.
Now,
or
if
that
you
classroom.
reflect on the two USathemerrillers, are your learning styles different too? So Kirsten, if you come up with a lesson plan, you're thinking of it as not just one type of learner. There's Joe, a different type of learner. He could be like, hey, wait a minute, don't forget about us.
Exactly.
Which gives you the ability to spin the lesson plan so that you are, meeting the diverse needs of students.
Yeah, exactly. And and even when you're creating lessons, he's more willing to put tons of time into some certain things. I may be like, that is way too much work, right? Because that's what he's passionate about. This year, his kids loved Animal Crossing, and he did this whole project, and it took forever. And I was like, this is a lot. Come on, man. Focus, priorities, job, family, and he did. But the kids loved it. It was so cool. And so sometimes when you're really passionate about something, someone else may not completely buy into that, but doesn't necessarily mean that there's not value in it.
They just didn't get it at the time, right? They didn't see when you see a bunch of effort being put into something, they're still we were spending a lot of time, but for what? And then when you have a whole week's worth of engagement, you're like, oh, I get it now, right? That was truly meaningful in so many ways. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I know you got to run, and you've got a very busy schedule. I'm going to throw the schedule that you guys have on back up to you.
That's a lot of work. But it's
so
all good, right?
Why don't you do two things for me before we get? Why don't you let everybody know where else you'll be for the remainder of the week? I've got the slide up here so people can see it who are watching live online. And then after that, let people know after ISTE, how can they get in touch with you? Through your socials, and you've got a website, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so today we're going to be leaving right here immediately, going down to the Figma booth for a booth session down there. Then we have another session on Novel Effect this afternoon. That's going to be in the Terrace Ballroom, which that sounds really big.
That sounds very fancy. I know.
I'm hoping that.
We like fancy.
Fancy's good. Fancy's good.
Is it like cheesecake?
It's not cheesecake.
And anyway, so a couple more sessions coming up throughout the week. So we'd love to see everybody out there if they're here. If not, stay tuned because we'll share some resources with you guys. You can reach us at the SpeakersCreators, 2 R's, 2 L's, because
there's two of us.
she hates it when I do that. I love it. So SpeakersCreators.com.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you luck at the rest of this week, and we will see you.